During the debate, Donald Trump claimed Haitian immigrants were eating the pets of the residents of Springfield, Ohio. It was a lie that was fact-checked in real time by the debate moderator. The lie was so outrageous that it was widely panned as laughable.
What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
But the people
I'm
on television saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
Scholars and historians did not think this was funny, however, because they have seen how throughout the world authoritarian leaders and fascistic movements use these lies to target immigrants in order to create hate and fear. The representation of immigrants as dangerous criminals justifies the practice of penning them in large prison-like centers, and once they are there, the fact that they are imprisoned leads some to conclude that they must be dangerous. Donald Trump has promised the mass deportation of millions of such immigrants, and that it would be a, quote, bloody story, end quote. This type of pernicious propaganda is what causes hate and fear to spread throughout the world out of control, dividing and rotting small towns in America to the core, and inevitably leading to violence.
We're going to begin with public comment tonight, and I will call on Nathan Clark, who will go to the podium. Thank you, Nathan. You have 3 minutes.
We felt it would be in our best interest to be here after recent comments. You know, I wish that my son, Aiden Clark, was killed by a 60-year-old white man. I bet you never thought anyone would ever say something so blunt. But if that guy killed my 11-year-old son, the incessant group of hate-spewing people would leave us alone. The last thing that we need is to have the worst day of our lives violently and constantly shoved in our faces. But even that's not good enough for them. They take it one step further. They make it seem as though our wonderful Aiden appreciates your hate, that we should follow their hate. And look what you've done to us. We have to get up here and beg them to stop. Using Aiden as a political tool is, to say the least, reprehensible for any political purpose. And speaking of morally bankrupt, politicians, Bernie Moreno, Chip Roy, J.D. Vance, and Donald Trump, they have spoken my son's name and used his death for political gain. This needs to stop now. They can vomit all the hate they want about illegal immigrants, the border crisis, and even untrue claims about fluffy pets being ravaged and eaten by community members. However, they are not allowed, nor have they ever been allowed to mention Aiden Clark from Springfield, Ohio. I will listen to them one more time to hear their apologies. To clear the air, my son, Aiden Clark, was not murdered. He was accidentally killed by an immigrant from Haiti. This tragedy is felt all over this community, the state, and even the nation. But don't spin this towards hate. In order to live like Aiden, you need to accept everyone. Choose to shine, make the difference, lead the way, and be the inspiration. What many people in this community and state and nation are doing is the opposite of what you should be doing. Sure, we have our problems here in Springfield and in the U.S., but does Aiden Clark have anything to do with that? Did you know that an 11-year-old boy could be passionate about gardening, that he could haggle for a better price at a yard sale? Did you know that he researched different cultures to better appreciate and understand people that he interacted with? Did you know that one of the worst feelings in the world is to not be able to protect your child? Even worse, we can't even protect his memory when he's gone. Please stop the hate. I said to Aiden that I would try to make a difference in his honor. This is it. Live like Aiden. Thank you.
The day after the debate, Christopher Pohlhaus, leader of the national neo-Nazi group Blood Tribe, took to his Telegram channel to take credit. Pohlhaus, a Marine turned tattoo artist known as, quote, Hammer, end quote, to his hundreds of followers, wrote, Blood Tribe had, quote, pushed Springfield into the public consciousness, end quote. Members of his hate group agreed. Quote, the president is now talking about it, end quote. A member wrote on Gab, a Twitter-like service popular with extremists. Quote, this is what real power looks like, end quote. A couple of days later, bomb threats closed elementary schools, middle schools, and municipal buildings in Springfield.
And surprise, surprise, Trump is doing absolutely nothing to calm things down. When asked yesterday if he denounced those bomb threats in Springfield, he definitely didn't say yes.
Did you denounce the bomb threats in Springfield, Ohio?
I don't know what happened with the bomb threats. I know that it's been taken over by illegal migrants, and that's a terrible thing that happened. Springfield was this beautiful town, and now they're going through hell.
So when the question is, do you denounce bomb threats that are terrorizing an American city? The answer should be unambiguous. But of course, Trump's wasn't. And of course, in the next breath, he kept lying about Haitian migrants who were in this country legally. Look, we have seen this pattern before. Trump stoking conspiracy theories and then commenting on them as if he's some casual observer. He sets fire to the building, continues pouring gasoline all over it, and then wonders aloud about why it's burning.
This racist propaganda was started by neo-Nazis, and the follow-up was by the Ku Klux Klan and our so-called leaders, who have run with it, reinforced by conservative media outlets like Fox News. Thus, half the country is now completely cut off from any source of truthful information than the dear leader. As George Orwell's famous edict in his dystopian novel, 1984, wrote, quote, the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. This was their final, most essential command, end quote. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, quote, what great men do, common men pursue, end quote, which in this case would be the tens of millions of his cult members, commonly referred to as his MAGA base, 28% of whom have said that violence would be justified to correct what they view as Kami Kamala and her socialist followers, who robbed their dear leader of his rightful election and since then have been destroying this country for the past 4 years. It's like a demonic call and response kirtan.
The fact is, and I'll say it now, you have to get him the hell out. You have to get him out. I'm sorry.
The entire Republican Party has been co-opted by this personality cult, and they are all marching in lockstep to his every command, repeating and reinforcing his mendacious divisive, hateful talking points.
I know that happened over a week ago, and there have been plenty of cat-eating jokes since, but I still want to talk about this, both because the chaos Trump stirred up in Springfield is ongoing and because it feels emblematic of his campaign. And before we go any further, to be clear, city officials insist there is no evidence of what Trump confidently spewed to 67 million people, and in doing so, he was actually repeating something that had been posted by his running mate, J.D. Vance, a man who always looks like a yassified chipmunk, the day before the debate. He posted that Haitian illegal immigrants were causing chaos all over Springfield, Ohio, and reports now show that people have had their pets abducted and eaten by people who shouldn't be in this country, which, among other things, makes it sound like eating pets is a right reserved for natural-born Americans. And when asked about it since, Vance has insisted he was just reflecting people's concerns.
The media has tried to say now for days that I've made up this story. I haven't made up anything. I've just listened to people who are telling me these things.
Wait. If enough people say it, I repeat it? It is not ideal when an aspiring vice president's guiding philosophy is indistinguishable from a fucking parrot's. And look, obviously, an attack like that isn't remotely new. We've demonised immigrants in all sorts of ways, including by accusing them of eating pets, for centuries now. But it is worth looking at what's actually been happening in Springfield, because it's interesting and reveals how far from just repeating claims he's heard, Vance has actually helped create much of the chaos he's now trying to exploit. Because it is true that Springfield had a significant influx of Haitian immigrants in the last few years. Amid tumult in Haiti, the US granted a certain number of Haitian immigrants temporary protected status, making them eligible for social security numbers and work permits. At the same time, companies in Springfield faced a worker shortage, and many Haitian immigrants moved there after being recruited by local companies for jobs that locals were not filling. Vance is the one who wanted attention, and that clearly took priority here, because while he's remarkably bad at a lot of things, writing books, delivering speeches, ordering donuts like a human from Earth, it turns out he's actually pretty good at parroting racist lies like the spineless dipshit that he is. And frankly, the only appropriate response to all of this is strong outrage, swift condemnation, and come November, a voter turnout that collectively says to the Trump campaign, in the words of an understandably frustrated Springfield official, "Thank you, you're done. Not really thank you."
Even locally here in Pittsburgh, Dave McCormick, the carpetbagger from Connecticut, who's trying for Casey's Senate seat, is attacking the Haitian community in Charleroi and endangering their community, creating hate and fear to divide and conquer to gain political power. Like a bad spin-off of Trump's own propaganda. Why do they do this? What's in it for them? The only purpose is to make people become so fearful that they need a strong leader to protect them from all those bad brown people coming from what he calls, quote, shithole countries, end quote, like Haiti. But in this election cycle, the Kirtan leaders have flipped. In the first 2020 debate with Joe Biden, the call was coming from the president to the extremists. Trump was pressed to denounce white supremacists, and Trump begrudgingly called the Proud Boys to, quote, stand down and stand by, end quote. This was a sign from their dear leader to get ready for the armed insurrection to come. Now, the Kirtan is led by extremists. Trump is now singing and dancing like a dog to their commands. For 8 years, Donald Trump has surrounded himself with the vile extremists who advise him to appeal to and arouse the most degraded animal instincts from the reptilian brain of his base, and the drumbeat is only going to get louder from now until Election Day, after which, if he loses, there will be no peaceful transfer of power. There will be another attempt to overturn the will of the people, just like he did on January 6th. In this election cycle, however, the stakes are much higher because now he is facing incarceration. And out of desperation and anger, his inner circle now includes the worst of the worst, namely Laura Loomer, who is so shocking and politically incorrect that it alarms even the most outspoken of his trolls, namely Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is jealous that she is now stealing her spotlight. P.T. Barnum once said, quote, "There's no such thing as bad publicity," end quote. Trump is a master manipulator of the media with decades of practice. Whenever he wants attention put back on him and his favorite issue, hate and fear, he ups the ante. Rhodes Scholar and journalist Rachel Maddow asks the question, quote, "When will we learn our lesson?" End quote.
Trump brought out brought an outspoken bigot and 9/11 conspiracy theorist to the 9/11 commemoration in Lower Manhattan. She made a series of viciously, almost astonishingly racist statements about how terrible it would be to have Kamala Harris in the White House, where she already is, because Harris is of Indian descent on her mother's side. Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, was asked to comment, particularly because his wife is also of Indian descent. He smiled and swallowed it and said, quote, "I don't think that's insulting." For what it's worth, these comments were wildly and profoundly and baldly insulting to anyone of Indian descent. And whether or not J.D. Vance cares about that, there are very large Indian American constituencies in important swing states like, say, Georgia and North Carolina. They are likely to care. NPR also just revealed days ago that Trump's New Jersey Golf Club twice this summer hosted this man, the one with the Hitler haircut and Hitler mustache. He was convicted 5 times over for his behavior during the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. His trial invoked previous statements of his like, quote, "Hitler should have finished the job," and, quote, "babies born with any deformities or disabilities should be shot in the forehead." This man posted a lengthy video online in 2020 about what he called the, quote, "Jewish invasion of New Jersey." He compared Jewish people to a, quote, "plague of locusts." And then Trump hosted him twice at his New Jersey Golf Club at Bedminster this summer. The second appearance of the Hitler mustache guy at Trump's club was followed the very next day by Trump hosting at that same club an anti-Semitism event. The day after the Hitler mustache guy. The day after the Jewish invasion of New Jersey guy. This comes inconveniently just as blatantly anti-Semitic TV ads targeting Kamala Harris's husband for being Jewish have started running in Michigan thanks to a Republican-linked political action committee. Now getting national attention there. I mean, as I said, this is a wild political season, and I don't mean wild in a good way. But Trump has, over the last few days, effectively stopped coverage of almost all of those things that I just described. And he has done so by making such fantastically outrageous and racist and dangerous false claims about Haitian immigrants that just about everybody, understandably, feels compelled to stop what they're doing and prioritize coverage and condemnation of this truly awful, consequential, bad thing instead of whatever else they might have wanted to report or discuss about how the campaign is going and what the American people ought to understand about the stakes in this election. And that, of course, serves Trump very well. Right? Anybody who thinks the Springfield, Ohio lies about Haitian migrants is going poorly for Trump should consider the context in which he has not just brought this up, but he and his running mate have repeatedly insisted that this is what we ought to be talking about. This isn't bad for them, not as they see it. I mean, if you're taking like a midterm exam or a final exam, you have no clue what any of the answers are, and you're definitely going to fail that test, why not get up and pull the fire alarm? I mean, yeah, you might get in some kind of trouble for pulling the fire alarm, but you failing is no longer going to be the story. It's made to order outrage. And the press was supposed to learn something about dealing with this in 2016, 2015. What we were supposed to learn is that part of dealing with the tactic of made to order outrage is that it's his orders. right? It keeps the discussion on things he's framing rather than on what the election might otherwise be about. So yes, his made-to-order moral outrages have to be called out as false and as nonsense because they are dangerous, right? They not only invite, they demand some sort of terrible response from the people who fall for this stuff. And so we should trace the origin of this garbage. In this case, his lies about Haitian immigrants. In this case, these specific lies about these specific immigrants go to a literal Nazi group that has been pushing this particular lie in Springfield, Ohio, and then parading in Springfield, Ohio with swastika flags, right? So we should trace this to its origins. That's where the Trump campaign got this. We should also care for and protect the people who are being harmed by this garbage, obviously. They are having to post Ohio State troopers at Springfield, Ohio's elementary schools now because of what Trump and Vance have done in lying about this community. But also recognize what they're doing is a tactic and recognize why they're doing it. They are doing it to change the subject, to pull the proverbial fire alarm, to get us all talking about him and this issue that he's chosen because he likes these nouns and verbs, right? He likes this framing. He wants us to be talking about this trash, even if it's being debunked. He wants this to be the main subject of discussion in the country instead of, I don't know, Kamala Harris beating the pants off of him in that debate and him humiliating himself by showing himself unable to talk about anything other than ego-driven concerns related to himself, right? They would love for us to be talking about anything other than Harris just wiping the floor with him in the debate. They would love for us to be talking about anything other than her being endorsed by an unprecedented slate of senior military leaders who have served under presidents of both parties. They would love for us to be talking about anything other than a sort of shocking roster of A-list business leaders who have just endorsed Kamala Harris. They would love for us to be talking about anything other than, now most recently a group of former Ronald Reagan staffers who have endorsed Kamala Harris. This is a tactic. We were supposed to get better at not having our chains yanked. After living through this experience since 2015, we are almost 10 years into this now. The made-to-order outrage from Trump and his cohort are designed to get us talking about that outrage rather than any other issue that might more reasonably frame the real stakes of an election or the real threat of Trump's presidency.